What do you do when your colleague is upsetting a client on a call? Hi guys, my name is Deepak Shukla, founder at the Pearl Lemon Group. We're a business growth and development agency based in the UK, USA, as well as serving clients worldwide. And here today, in day number 86, we're here to talk about those challenging moments when you've got someone who's upsetting one of your clients on a call. But before we get into it, feel free to click the link in the description below to get access to 7 additional strategies that are not shared in this training. So fundamentally, there may come a time when you're on a call with a client and one of your colleagues is upsetting the client. It could be purposefully, it could be, without intention. It could be for all number of reasons, for tardiness, for bad audio. It could be a whole range of things. Okay. So fundamentally, if you see this happening, it really depends upon the context and scenario. So let's just go through the different areas. So number one, if, for example, it's to do with bad audio or video, then in those instances, you'd ask the person who's got the bad audio or video to mute or turn their camera off. So mute or turn their camera off. If that person is someone who's talking ultimately or fundamental to the call, you need to take the call over. I mean, that's going to be the only thing to do if it's becoming really problematic in terms of being able to just effectively communicate, but there's so much noise or there's so much interference that the client is just getting pretty frustrated effectively. So taking the call over is something that you can do. Just say, Frank, you know what, I see that there's a problem with your audio this morning. No worries. Let me step in and manage it as best as I can. And anything that I can't, we can follow up separate. We can follow up on email. And that's what you would say. You would not ask if it was okay to do that. Just get on with it and do it, because if the audio is bad, then, or the video is bad, then it's best that you step in. So that's just something that's definitely advisable that you do, especially where you see the client getting annoyed, and you can just step in and then follow up separately for all of the parts you can't answer. But always take the call over. Okay, this is in the instance of bad audio video. If it's, for example, related to language, let's say. So again, language could be swearing. It could be, let's call it lack of professionalism. Then again, a lot of the roads relate to you taking the call over where someone is pissing the client off, you coming in and stepping in and taking the call over. And otherwise, the other elements of it that you can do is so where it's language, you could turn it into a joke. So that might be something along the lines of, if I'm saying, for F's sake, F this, F that, Eon might come in and say, Deepak, language, let's try and keep the F bombs down and turn it into G bombs. God dang, and stuff like that. So you could turn it into a little bit of a joke to signal to the person what's going on. And that's the important point that you're relying upon here, that you need to ultimately signal the person to change their behavior, let's say. So if it's me that's pissing off your client or our client, then you need to signal me. So that can involve DMs. Where DMs don't work, you could intervene on the call. Because to be honest with you, if I am the person who is pissing the client off, but I've got an immediate ability to just change my approach, or change my approach, whether it's language, whether it's audio, whether it's video, whatever it might be, then you should just go ahead and fundamentally do that. Because if you can quickly nip in the bud the actual problem, it's going to just end up net better for everybody. So I'd say that these are the things that you can really rely upon. And if you look at it, it breaks down into two phases really, which is taking the call over or telling the offender to adjust. Okay, so really they're the two central things here, that taking the call over or telling the offender to adjust. That's bad audio, bad video, that's fine. You can try and continue with bad audio, bad video if it's still intelligible and it doesn't upset the client. But ultimately, we're talking about where the client is upset. So taking the call over definitely works better. When there's any, let's say, issues that relate to language, when it relates to language, it could be, it could turning it into a joke publicly is, not a bad way to go at all. Signaling the person to change their behavior can often work, but when that person doesn't look at their DMs because they're, for example, busy presenting, then ultimately interrupting so you can interrupt for segments effectively. So what I mean by that is if the client's upset with someone's particular explanation of a poor result or explanation of anything, you can take over that segment of the call and then pass it back to your colleague. So it might be the case that I'm, absolutely fantastic when it comes to several sections of the call, but there's one particular area that I'm just abysmal. In that moment, you can interrupt and take over. Say, Deepak, why don't you let me, walk Andy through this. Deepak, hey, let me see if I can help you out, because I want to make sure that Andy, that we communicate the value that you've been driving. So there's nothing wrong with gracefully interrupting, interjecting, or rather gracefully taking over to help support your colleague. And that's really a good workaround when it's something that relates to a particular segment of the call. So you can then take the call over, tell the offender to adjust, or take that part of the call over rather than all of it. So they would be the couple of scenarios that I definitely say that you should consider when it comes to the call. And between all of that, I think you should be okay. Now, if the colleague has majorly upset the client, then you can, in a worst case scenario, ask that person to leave the call or ask that person to just not return to future calls. And you could say he's unwell, or he's away, or he's working on your project, or whatever it may be. But there is always that outside option that the colleague doesn't need to return to the call again. But between these 5 strategies, let's say 5, there's probably take part of the call over, so interrupt that segment. You should be able to manage any call where your colleague is upsetting the client. And if you're enjoying these videos, please do leave a comment with your thoughts on this instruction in the comments below. And please do subscribe if you're enjoying these videos. Thank you.